Hello beautiful friends, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch and to my garden. Although we're not going to be hanging out in the garden for too terribly long today, just to do a little bit of harvesting, and then we're going to head up to the kitchen and make some fun recipes. The first thing that we're going to do is pick the rest of our garlic scapes. We did pick the majority of them about 4 or 5 days ago now, but I have some more to pick, and then that'll do us for the garlic scapes. We already have the rest of our haskaps or our honeyberries picked, and we're going to be using those to make the most delicious jam you have ever had in your life. It's so good. It's called sun jam, and we actually use the sun to make our jam. Oh no. Ah! Guard? No! Ah! I got it. I'll be up at the house.
You get stung again?
No, it's chasing me. Okay, friends. I don't know if you saw me going running off there, but I installed a nucleus hive yesterday, and I also did a split, and my bees are not happy with me. So I actually got stung. I don't know if you can see how swollen my arm is, but I got stung when I was out in the garden weeding yesterday, and then another guard bee just found me again and was trying to get me away. I'm not even that close to the hives, but it'll take them a few days to calm down, and then I'll be fine again. Needless to say, I'm gonna get these garlic scapes picked as quickly as possible so that I can get away from possibly being stung. I don't get anaphylaxis, but I do get a fairly extreme allergic reaction to bee stings, honey bee stings specifically, just a lot of swelling and discomfort. So I'd really rather not get stung again. So let's get all of these picked, and then we'll get up to the house where we're safe from the bees. Yeah, as soon as we have enough sunny days. So there we go, just a few of the scapes. So these are the flowering parts of the garlic, and we pull these off so that our garlic bulbs can get as big as possible, which is what we want. We'll be harvesting these probably in about 4 weeks' time, and I can't wait because I absolutely love garlic. So let's get up to the house now, and we'll turn these into something delicious. The forest garden is absolutely buzzing with life right now. There are so many different kinds of bees and wasps and all kinds of pollinators in here. Look at this. Look at all the bees on that. This is a wild geranium, and really invasive. Friends, if you don't want these all over your property, don't plant them, but the bees sure love them. All right, friends. First things first, let's grab our garlic scapes that we have. So we have our garlic scapes that I just picked, and then we also have all of the scapes that we picked together the other day. So I'm just gonna go rinse these off in the sink. Okay, I'm gonna try doing this differently than I have done in the past. So normally what I've done in the past is blended up the garlic scapes. Sometimes I'll put them through the blender and actually blend them really fine, and then freeze dry them and just have like a powdered garlic scape, or a garlic scape powder that I use the same as I would use garlic powder. And when I have done salt before, I have just blended it up and added the salt to it and freeze dried it that way. But I just found a recipe. Hang on, let me tell you where I got it from. Gutsy by Nature, in my reading glasses, gutsybynature.com. And this is one that we actually bake in the oven for around an hour at 250 degrees. And I think that that is actually going to increase the garlicky flavor by kind of baking it. It'll probably caramelize them just a little bit, or bring some of those sugars out. Because I just think that'll work. So we're gonna give that a try. And we're gonna do that first, and then we're going to make our delicious sun jam. Okay, so for this recipe it says 12 garlic scapes and a half a cup of coarse sea salt. So I have more than 12 here, so I'm just going to eyeball it. Whew, it is garlicky. And we're gonna add some kosher salt to that. Easy peasy. So now we're just going to bake this in the oven until it is all dry at 250 degrees. So now we are going to make our sun jam. So I am going to be using haskaps, and these are what haskaps look like, or honeyberries. They look like an elongated blueberry, and they taste amazing, and they grow really well in the north. I also have a few strawberries in here as well. So we're going to cook this up just enough to soften all the berries with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of honey, and some lemon juice. And this can just be entirely to your taste preferences, because we're actually going to freeze this jam instead of can it. Have a little bit of our honeybee honey there. I am very excited right now because as it stands, I have 4 hives. So I came out of the winter with 1 of my 2 hives making it, and then I did a split on that 1 hive because it was doing so well. That split took, so I basically split the hive in half roughly and then added a new queen to it. So that hive's been doing really well. But my strong hive that I did the initial split on just exploded. So many bees. So I talked to somebody who I respect when it comes to honeybees and asked whether I should do, or if I could do another split on that hive. And they said that I could, especially right now, because we're right in the middle of a big nectar flow. So I did another split. I ordered in another queen, and then I also ordered another nucleus hive. So that is a small hive. And so now I have 4 hives buzzing away out there, and I am so incredibly excited about it. I love keeping honeybees. It's not something that I share a ton about here on my channel because I don't feel that I am qualified to offer advice or suggestions or anything like that when it comes to keeping honeybees, because I haven't been overly successful in overwintering them here in the north. But I was very excited that at least one of my 2 hives made it through last year. I heard that there were devastating honeybee losses across North America last year, so the fact that one of mine made it through was very encouraging. So now I'm hopeful that I can get all 4 of these hives through this upcoming winter. Really, really hope. I have some plans, which I'll share with you when we get there. But for right now, we are going to get a saucepan. We don't need a large one. I don't do large batches of sun jam because I have to use freezer space to store it. You can sun jam, but it kind of defeats the purpose of the process of having the flavors be the way that we're going to be by using the sun to evaporate off the moisture instead of cooking it down for a really long time and then canning it. So I don't do a ton, but I always make at least a few jars of it every year, and I put it into the freezer, and I get to enjoy the taste of pure summer in the middle of winter because it really does taste like pure summer. So what we're going to do here is we have our bees. Wow, bees to the brain. Wow, okay. We have our berries here, and we're going to add a little bit of organic cane sugar, probably around a cup, to our pot, and then we're going to add around, I don't know, let's see how much I decide, around half a cup of our honey and a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. And we're going to cook this just enough to soften our berries and to just bring everything all together. Our jam has cooked down enough now that I'm happy with it. I don't want to cook it for too long. The whole idea behind this jam is to have a really fresh, a really fresh and light flavored jam. We do want it soft enough though that we can mash the fruit together, and we do want to boil away a little bit of the water. I've just mashed it with a potato masher and tasted it, and it's a little bit more sour than I want it to be, so I'm going to add a little bit more sugar to it, probably half a cup or so. This is going to be a really teeny tiny little batch of sun jam. It probably won't even make it to the freezer if I'm perfectly honest. This is so good on yogurt, on ice cream, on just even on toast. Okay, that's it. Now we're going to take it over here and dump it onto our cookie sheet. So now we're going to do something that's going to seem entirely crazy and potentially irresponsible, and that is that we're going to take this jam and we're going to go put it on the windowsill of our car. So I was actually thinking that if I had a sun oven, that's where I would be putting this, is into a sun oven, but I don't. I also don't have anything that I can think of that I could put over top of this that would keep the bugs out of it, but also make sure that it's hot enough that the sun can kind of evaporate off and basically cook the jam. This can take up to 4, sometimes 8 hours, depending on how hot it is out. It's actually not that hot out today. There's a little bit of sun though. So I imagine it's gonna take us a little bit longer than the average amount of time that it takes us. But we're gonna take this out. This is the scary part. Okay, you guys ready? Let's do this. Okay, there we go. So yeah, a little precarious. But so what you're going to want to do now at this point is to go and give it a stir every hour, because it will be cooking, so it's going to thicken around the edge, and then just keep doing that until it gets to the texture that you want, so a jammy kind of texture. Smelling very garlicky. I just came in the door and I was like, what is that garlicky smell? Oh, the garlic scape salt I'm cooking in the oven. Very garlicky smelling, so just know that your house is going to smell fairly garlicky for a few days after doing this. With my freeze dryer doesn't make the house smell at all, so that would be the one benefit of using the freeze dryer in comparison to this. You could also use a dehydrator outside so that you don't have that really strong garlicky smell. I just remembered when I was outside just now that I actually have a whole bunch of basil to harvest down in the high tunnel. So that gives us an opportunity to walk back through the garden again. I can show you a few things that we have going on in the garden and harvest some of that basil, and I'll show you how and why I do it the way that I do. So the cool thing about bees is that they can smell really well, and they must know me, the smell of me, and know that I was the one in the hive messing around with it last night, because I've had other people in the garden without any issues. They have not been being bothered by the guard bees at all, but literally the minute that I just went through and walked through the garden, one of them found me and started bouncing off of me. So I ran as fast as I could and closed the door of the high tunnel, and I'll head back out the back way so that I don't get stung again. Oh my gosh. We are here to talk about our basil here. So this is my basil, and for those of you that live anywhere south of here that can grow big, giant, beautiful basil plants, you're probably looking at this and saying, these are just so little teeny tiny. And they are. We can't grow big, giant basil, or at least I can't here. But I can grow enough basil, because the way that I do it is I grow it like this, and then I actually go and I cut off the whole top of it. And I do this multiple times throughout the season, so I can get multiple harvests, and I can usually get enough to be able to last us for the year. I still have basil left from last year. Oh, there's a little dandy long leg on there. Off you go, buddy. So you can see here that where the main leaves are, there's 2 little branches coming out. That's how the basil grows. So if you cut it right there, these 2 branches will grow more basil for you. So I'm just going to go along and snip all these off. Doing this also helps the basil plant not bolt, or at least hold off bolting for a while. Okay, I have some more over here. I just wanted to show you this. So the last time that we were down here together, I used some of this Garden Tone fertilizer on my pepper plants, and I don't know if you can tell the difference, but they are looking so much better since I did that. I also did have some aphids. I'm gonna go check and see if I have them still. Hang on one sec. Well, if I do, it's not very many because I can hardly see any. So we sprayed all of these with some milk, just slightly diluted whole milk, about 5 days ago now, and it has knocked back the aphids by a ton. Ants climbing on this. Now I'm wondering, do I have aphids on this? Let's check. This is a sunflower, and I have never had aphids on sunflowers before. There's ants all over this. Does anyone know why ants would be all over my sunflower? There's no aphids on there, so I don't know. Never seen that before either. It's kind of a bit of a weird year for weather and pests. We're having all kinds of different pest issues that we don't normally have, weather issues that we don't normally have, lots of rain that we don't normally have. Happy to say that my tomato plants do seem to be putting on a lot more flowers than they were the last time we were in here. I was talking about how it just didn't seem that my tomato plants were flowering the way that I'm used to, but we've got lots of flowers on there this morning, which is great. So the reason I was shaking this is just to pollinate all of my tomato flowers. They don't require bees to pollinate. They can, or other types of bug pollinators. You can just give them a shake and they will self-pollinate. So same for peppers, by the way. So happy with how that fertilizer seems to brighten up my pepper plants. They were looking a little bit yellow, and they are looking so much better now, so I can go along and pull off any of the remaining yellow leaves, and hopefully it'll stay looking good. I have never grown a pineapple sage before. Look at how beautiful that plant looks. Just gorgeous. Let's grab these and bring them back up to the house. Okay. So now all I'm going to do is take these leaves off. I don't get too carried away with worrying about removing all the stem because I'm going to be grinding this up afterwards in the blender and making some basil. Basil is hands down my favorite herb. Actually, that's not true. I like dill too. I love dill. I prefer the way that dill looks growing in the garden, the way that it moves when the wind's blowing through it, and the smell that it radiates out into the garden. I absolutely love so much. But as far as like a culinary herb that I actually use all the time, I use basil in everything. So question, do you say basil or basil? I obviously say basil, but always curious about pronunciations. Whenever I say about, I can hear my Canadian accent. It's like, when I say about, there's another word that I say that I can hear it when I say it. I can't think of what it is. I know there's lots of words that I say that you guys find really entertaining. Like I say marigold instead of marigold. I say process instead of process. What else do I say? I say pasta instead of pasta. There's a few more, I'm sure. So I'm going to be able to fill up my freeze dryer now because I have 2 trays down in the freezer. One that has pureed kale that I use to make kale, that I use to make kale powder that I add into all sorts of things. And one tray that has some herbs and some fireweed flowers. I think mostly just that. So I'm gonna be able to run it through, which is great. On the note of the freeze dryer, something interesting that came up during a conversation that we had in our membership community, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, was around somebody had an air purifier that would let you know if there was something wrong with the air. And she found that using her freeze dryer was triggering it and causing really bad air quality in her house. So she moved her freeze dryer outside. So I went and bought this little meter. What is this? Aranet. It's not like a super cheap one, kind of a mid-range one, and I put it in my freeze dryer room when my freeze dryer was running. Did I mention this to you guys before? I can't remember, but either way, it's worth mentioning again. And there was zero issue with the air quality. But somebody had pointed out to me, so maybe I did mention it because I think it might have been a comment, but either way, somebody had mentioned to me that the pump, the oil pump, oh, actually it was another member that had mentioned it, that they had the oil pump that you have to change, and they did find that there was a bit of an exhaust. I have the oilless pump, the oil-free pump, I think is what it's called. And so that is probably the difference. So I forgot to check with the girl who was having the air quality issues to see what kind of pump she had. But either way, I didn't have any, it didn't rate anything, which I was very relieved because we have our freeze dryer room set up downstairs with the freeze dryer and there's nowhere else. I think I maybe would have to move it to the shop or something like that if there was an air quality issue. But there was not, thank goodness. Okay, these are gonna go into the freeze dryer. I'll be back with you when our jam out there and our garlic salt is done and show you the finished product. It is just about 6 p.m. now and our jam is done, and I just want to show you. Look at how gorgeous and thick and dark this is, and I already had a taste and it is absolutely spectacularly delicious. So I'm going to put it in jars. This is just going to go in the fridge. We're just going to use this right away, but normally what I would do is leave a bit of headspace and put this into my freezer. I know it's not super recommended to put glass in your freezer, but I use these little trays. Your freezer, deep freeze probably has this as well, but so that it sits above everything, and I always put my jars in there and that's all that goes in there, so I never have a problem. I've never lost one. So we're gonna do that, and then we have our salt over here, and I did learn something doing this. I would rather have the scapes themselves more finely ground than this. This is a little bit more coarse than I would want. So I'm gonna leave this out overnight. There's still a tiny bit of moisture that I can feel in there. I'm gonna leave this out overnight, and then I am going to run this through my blender and just grind it up a little bit more fine than it is. But it smells absolutely fantastic. So I'll just use that in place of any other type of garlic salt that I would otherwise use. But let's get our funnel here and very carefully scoop our sunjam into our jar. I just think it's the slow process and the lack of intense heat that makes both the color and the flavor of sunjam so robust. But it is other level delicious. So there we go. It's just about black. And I also remembered that I said that I was going to strain out my chive vinegar. This is the chive vinegar that we made together the other day in my last video, and when I went to edit it, I realized that I hadn't actually done it. So we're gonna do that right now. Look at the color of that. Isn't that beautiful? So I'm just gonna let that sit so that all of the vinegar can drain out of the flowers. But you can see the flowers don't have a lot of color left, but all that gorgeous color is in our vinegar, and I'll be using this as a base for salad dressings until I run out. And last up, I wanted to show you our fireweed tea that we made together the other day. I did dehydrate the little balls. So these are fermented, dehydrated fireweed leaves. And if you want to see how I did that, you can go and check out this video or that video, wherever it goes. You'd think I'd know that by now. But anyway, you can go check that out, but I'm very excited about that. So this is going to go into a jar as well. I actually decided when I took this out that I wanted to go pick a whole bunch more fireweed and make more, because this is one of my favorite herbal teas. I'm not actually a big herbal tea drinker, but fireweed leaf tea is really, really good. All right, friends, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye.